The film opens with Omar, a tall brown man, surveying his surroundings. Behind Omar is a big wall that has a rope attached to it. Omar waits for the cars to pass by and, overcoming his anxiety, makes a move. He grabs the rope and, with all his might, attempts to climb the wall. With sweat dripping from his eyebrows, Omar successfully reaches the top of the wall and attempts to look back on the side he came from, when suddenly a bullet hits his vicinity, but Omar successfully reaches the other side of the wall. As soon as he jumps on the ground, he runs for it and successfully escapes from the site. Omar encounters a tap from which he washes his bloodied nose and hands. Omar walks around the block and encounters a house. He knocks on the door and a girl opens it. He asks about Tarek and she lets him in. Inside the house, there are two men with a similar appearance to Omar. Tarek asks Omar about his voyage, and after joking about it for a minute, he tells Tarek that he climbed over the Kalandia wall. The girl who opened the door for Omar earlier enters the room to serve coffee to the three men. She walks up to Omar and serves him coffee. He notices that besides the cup of coffee, she also has left a note for him. Both smirks, and then the girl serves Tarek and the other man. Tarek notices Omar and the girl smiling at each other but ignores it. Tarek tells them to hurry up as they have a lot to do today, and the girl, with great enthusiasm, asks Tarek if she can join them today. He declines, and the reason is that the girl talks a lot. All three of the men seem to have great chemistry and trust amongst them. The next shot opens with them being in a forest, firing a sniper rifle. As a target, they are using a microwave that they have placed 100 meters from them. All three of them lie in a prone stance and take a shot at shooting the microwave. To their surprise, all three of them succeed, and Tarek tells them both that they are ready. The next simulation that they seem to be practicing consisted only of Tarek and Omar. This time Omar is holding a gun to Tarek's head, and Tarek shows Omar that if he ever finds himself in a situation like this, then he should bend his arm, flinch the gun, and slam the person on the ground. He tells Tarek all this while demonstrating it on him, which forces the third man to laugh out loud. They take a break from their training and rest near a cliff, smoking cigarettes. The third man is playing a guitar-like instrument, and after joking around, they finish their training. Amjad is the name of the third man. As Amjad and Omar are walking home, Amjad tells Omar that he thinks that Nadia likes her. Nadia was the girl earlier who served them coffee. Omar tells Amjad that Tarek will flip out on him if he finds out, but then Amjad says something that shocks Omar. He says that he has love letters to prove his theory. Omar is speechless after hearing this and later heads back to the bakery where he works. Omar is a bread maker at a bakery, and he seemed to be still in bewilderment over what Amjad said earlier. The very next day he climbs over that wall again and darts towards Nadia's workplace. He asks Nadia if she loves him, and after her affirmation, both feel joyous until Tarek calls Nadia. Omar hastily escapes from her workplace. As Omar is climbing back on the wall, a jeep full of soldiers catch sight of him and fire shots at him. Luckily, he successfully managed to escape. He clubs down the mountain and starts to walk back on the road, to blend in with his surroundings. The jeep full of soldiers comes around the road and stops Omar. Inside the jeep are three soldiers interrogating Omar. They investigate him and ask him about his visits that day. Afterwards, they and punish him. They make him stand on a rock in the middle of the road while his hands are on his head. Omar does as he is told, but after a while his bottled-up rage explodes, and he walks up to them, challenging the soldier to a fist fight. But one of the soldiers quickly knocks him out with the stock of his gun. Omar, lying on the ground with a bloody nose, is again asked to stand on the rock, but this time, only on one leg. After this encounter with the soldier, he again heads back to the bakery and collects his wages from his supervisor. Omar's rage grows more after that encounter with those soldiers, and he convinces Tarek and Amjad to initiate their plan that night. All three of them have been training to become freedom fighters to stop the occupations in their country. Omar steals a car and picks up Tarek and Amjad at midnight. They reach a soldier base, and after surveying the base for a minute or two, Tarek gives Amjad the green signal to shoot. Amjad is still a little hesitant to shoot. Tarek scolds him, and eventually he successfully shoots one of the soldiers from his sniper rifle. All three of them run away from there, dodging the rain of bullets that are being shot at them. After safely dropping Tarek and Amjad, Omar burns the car and heads back home. The next day he heads to Nadia and promises her that he will talk to Tarek, asking for her hand in marriage. After hearing this, Nadia becomes very happy, and the two of them plan on where they would move after the wedding. Tarek gives her a letter which is secretly encrypted as a love language between Omar and Nadia. After giving her the letter, Omar heads back to Amjad and Tarek. The three of them are dining at a local cafe, and Omar tries his level best to tell Tarek, but Amjad interrupts him. He even lets Tarek in on his secret savings that he would use to buy a house, when suddenly a kid opens the door of the cafe and tells them that undercover agents are coming to hunt them. All three of them run from the back door of the cafe, where Omar gets separated from Tarek and Amjad. Unluckily for them, the pursuit proceeds and the soldiers multiply in number. Omar jumps over roofs and enters multiple houses, but he still cannot shake off the soldiers. As Omar is running through an open field, one of the soldiers shoots him and he gets arrested. He wakes up in a dark room and realizes that he is restrained. The man shines a bright white light on Omar's face and asks him about his accomplices, who shot the soldier with him. Omar keeps his mouth shut for a while, but then suddenly the man interrogating Omar grabs a wood plank. He starts to slam the plank into Omar's face until it is all bloodied. He asks Omar the same question again, but only this time, he notices that Omar is whispering something. To get the truth out of him, the man takes out a lighter from his pocket. He ignites the lighter and burns Omar's. This forces Omar to let out an agonizing scream. After his torture, Omar is then kept in solitary confinement for weeks, where the only interaction that he has is with an insect. He is forced to eat nasty meals and is deprived even of the sunlight. Omar soon realizes that he is slowly beginning to lose his mind due to isolation, but deep down in his heart he still believes that he will get out soon. He has this hope in his heart because he knows that the people who arrested him do not have enough evidence to prove that he is guilty. Omar is still in shock after getting out of solitary confinement, as his senses are still not used to being in the sun. As he is walking along the premises, a man approaches him and asks him if he is from a group. Omar ignores his question and is taken back to his cell. He sees all the people that he would share his cell with. During lunchtime, another man approaches him. Only this time, the man that approached Omar now seems to be a very sophisticated person. He comes to Omar and warns him to be more careful up ahead. As he tells him that there are a lot of prisoners who are wired here, these prisoners would ask him about his charges and whether or not he is guilty. This man looks at Omar and tells him that if he confesses, then he would have to be a collaborator since there is no going back. Omar tells him that he will not confess and walks away. Shortly after, some prisoner guards escort Omar to a private interrogation room where a man is waiting for him. He presses the play button on a cell phone and it plays an audio. The audio is of Omar saying that he would not confess. After arguing with that man for a bit, he is again sent back to his cell. When his lawyer visits him, she tells him that he is looking at a sentence of a minimum of 90 years. Omar is again called to the interrogation room, but this time the man tells him that the only way he could start a new life is if he is willing to work with the agency. Omar is enraged after hearing this sentence, and tries to break free from the chains holding him down. The man then mentions Nadia. He tells him that he knows all about Nadia and there is a possibility of him spending the rest of his life with her. But the only way that he can earn this opportunity is by working with them. Omar still ignores that man, but then suddenly the man mentions the name of Tarek. He tells him that he knows that Omar did not slay that soldier, but they would give him the option to start over again only if Omar tells them about the one who took out the soldier. The next day, Omar is standing out of prison with that man, which tells us that he might have accepted his offer. The man gives Omar 1 month to deliver what he wants, and if he fails to, then he will bring Omar back to this prison. Omar walks out of the prison and goes straight to Nadia's school. He hugs her as soon as he sees her and gives her a love letter again and asks for Tarek's whereabouts. He is very cautious since after that man at the prison cafeteria, Omar cannot trust anybody. After meeting Nadia, he goes to Amjad's house, and after greeting his sisters, he goes to Tarek's location. Tarek and Amjad seem to be living in the outskirts of the city in a small factory, and they are very surprised to see Omar. Omar, being a loyal disciple, tells Tarek everything, and tells him that they think that Tarek is the soldier slayer. Tarek tells them that they have a bigger problem. That problem is that they have a snitch amongst them, but they do not have enough evidence to prove and find the snitch. Tarek tells Omar that through his help, they can ambush the soldiers again. As soon as someone calls Tarek, Amjad expresses his deepest gratitude towards Omar as he is the reason why Amjad is not arrested. Shortly after, Omar and Tarek walk out of their hideout and Omar finally tells Tarek about his love for Nadia and how he wants to marry her. Tarek makes him realize that now is not the right time. He makes him realize that Omar has made a choice to be a freedom fighter, and he has taken the responsibility to liberate his country, so he must know that there are a lot of sacrifices that he shall make in the future. Omar still tries to convince Tarek, on which Tarek assures him that if the ambush is successful, then he would think about it. The next day, Omar takes Nadia to the house that he is planning to buy. He shows her all the rooms and tells her about the future that he has planned for them. Nadia is overfilled with joy and she kisses Omar. A few days later, Omar calls the man from the prison and they get straight into an argument. Omar points out that 1 month is a very short time period for him to bring Tarek in. He hangs up the phone and comes back to his home. He goes into his lawn to play with his cat, when suddenly he hears multiple men approaching him. Without even thinking for a second, Omar makes a run for it, not mistaken that it is the police chasing him again. After losing them in the main city, he again goes back to see Nadia, and this time he tells her that he would not be able to meet her for a while. But after the ambush, things would be a lot easier for him. After meeting with Nadia, he goes to the hideout where Tarek and Amjad are. To his surprise, they have successfully found out about the mole that was amongst them. They interrogate him and find out that the mole sold the resistance just because the agency promised him a visa. Tarek is enraged by the mole, but Omar calms him down and again mentions about his wedding with Nadia. Tarek tells him that he would not object, unless Nadia does. But since Nadia is also in love with Omar, Tarek tells him that he would let Omar marry Nadia after the ambush. Omar calls the man from the prison again and tells him that he is meeting Tarek tomorrow at Abu Asab restaurant. The next day at the restaurant, the three of them enter the dining hall with their assault rifles. Tarek had placed some gunmen of the resistance at the roof of the restaurant, Omar loads his guns and aims it at the window. All of them are set and prepared for the ambush. Outside the window, the garbage man comes to collect the garbage. He puts his hand inside the garbage can and pulls out a gun. He instantly shoots in the direction of Tarek and Omar, breaking the main window of the restaurant. As soon as the window breaks, soldiers barge in and collect Omar, who is still stunned from the shots earlier. Again, as soon as Omar is arrested, he is placed in a dark room where he is restrained. The man that made a deal with him comes and yells at him. He tells Omar that there is no way that he would be seeing Nadia anymore. He promises Omar that he will turn Nadia into a prostitute and would take Tarek's head. Omar is once again put into solitary confinement for a few weeks, but this time when he comes out, he notices a change. The rest of his cellmates are ready to eliminate him, since everyone thinks that he is a traitor. A few men try to slay him, but he knocks out 2 of them, until the third one knocks him out. He wakes up in the jail hospital, and after receiving some treatment, he goes to meet the man from the prison again. As he enters his office, he realizes that this man would not give him a second chance, and the charges that Omar has on himself are easily of 3 lifetimes. He somehow persuades the man in the prison to change his mind. The man from the prison gives him a second chance, but then sets some ground rules. He places a device on Omar's ankle that will keep track of him every time. That device can easily track Omar, even if he is 6 feet underground. The man gives Omar a last chance and warns him that if he fails at his job, then he would ruin Omar's life. Omar walks out of the prison again. He goes home and puts on some bandages around his ankle device. He goes to Nadia's school, where he sees her walking with her friends. As soon as he stops Nadia, she pushes him and refuses to talk to him. She calls him a traitor and tells him that he is the reason that 6 of their men perished. She thinks that Omar told the agency about the ambush since it went south as soon as the ambush started. She even accuses him of not shooting the soldiers deliberately. Omar has had enough, and in the moment of heat, he finally confronts Nadia about her fling with Amjad. Nadia does not say anything and walks away. Omar goes to the phone booth to call the man from the prison, but he does not pick up. He goes to Amjad's house where all of his sisters live. He asks them about Amjad's whereabouts, but they tell Omar to not come by his house anymore. Apparently this news has spread and everyone thinks that he is a traitor. Omar spies around Nadia's school and sees Amjad there. Amjad meets Nadia by the fence and the 2 exchange letters. Afterwards, as Amjad is walking away, Omar calls him. As soon as they reach an isolated place, he grabs Amjad by his collar and slams him onto the wall. He takes out a knife from his pocket and asks Amjad if he is the traitor. Omar accuses Amjad of being the traitor, letting his rage put biases in his head. Since he learns that Amjad wanted to be with Nadia, Amjad agrees to the accusations and does not protest. He tells Omar that the only reason why he became the traitor was because he accidentally got Nadia pregnant, and the agency found out about it. They threatened Amjad of exposing him and Nadia, and this would have gotten the both of them eliminated. So he had no other option but to join hands with the agency so that he could protect Nadia. Omar grabs Amjad and slams him onto the ground. He looks at him dead in the eye while his blood boils. Omar is about to fatally choke Amjad, but then he realizes something. He realizes his love for Nadia. If he slays Amjad, then the agency would eliminate Nadia too. Omar and Amjad spend hours talking and come to an agreement that they would finally tell Tarek. Omar and Tarek are childhood friends, and Omar thinks that it would be better if he tells Tarek that Amjad got his sister pregnant. The next day, both of them go to Tarek, and after interrogating them, Tarek sends his men away before getting violent. He chokes Omar with his elbow and asks him about him being a traitor. Omar tries to keep his calm and finally tells Tarek that Amjad got his sister pregnant. Tarek slams a metal rod onto Amjad's head and starts to beat him violently. He pulls out his pistol from his pocket, as he wants to shoot Amjad, but Omar pushes him to stop him. During all this fighting, Tarek's gun accidentally fires, hitting his and he loses his life on the spot. Omar calls the man from the agency, who arrives with the rest of the soldiers of the agency. They take out the device from his ankle and the man thanks him in person. He even offers Omar money, but Omar turns it down. Afterwards, he takes Amjad with him to Nadia's house. He meets the rest of her family members and tells them that he wants Amjad and Nadia to get married. Nadia's father's main concern is whether Amjad is stable enough to provide for Nadia. Her father says that he first wants to consult Tarek and Nadia. Omar tells him that he asked Tarek, and he cannot be present in this room as of this moment, because of the agency. Nadia's father asks her about her decision, and after her affirmation, he agrees to get the 2 of them married. Omar gives all of his savings to Amjad. These were the savings that he saved to buy a house for himself and Nadia, but he still gives them to Amjad and walks away. He tells Amjad that when his baby is born, tell everyone that it is premature. 2 months later, Tarek's body is found and everyone is in great grief since he was their rock. After Tarek's funeral, Omar tells Amjad to never communicate with him ever again and walks away. Omar continues with his life. He takes care of his family and works at a bakery as a bread maker. 2 years go by until one day a man stops him as he is going back to his house. He introduces himself as Muhsin Ali Taha, the new leader of the resistance. He tells Omar that Tarek's body had been in a refrigerator for 2 months before his funeral, and the last time he saw Tarek was with Amjad and Omar. He warns Omar that he suspects Amjad of being the traitor. Omar still tries to protect him and dismisses the accusations. The next day, as he was working in the bakery, a new customer comes to his shop to buy bread. It is Rami, the man from the prison. He asks Omar again to tell him about the new leader of the resistance, Muhsin Ali Taha. Omar declines to cooperate with him and Rami relentlessly threatens him. He threatens Omar about Nadia and Amjad. Omar is left with no option but to cooperate with Rami. The next day he climbs over the wall after 2 years and goes to Amjad's house. Nadia opens the door, invites him inside, and tells Omar that Amjad is not at home. After seeing her baby, Omar asks her if the baby was premature, on which Nadia declines. Omar realizes that Amjad had lied to him from the very start. He lied to him about the pregnancy so that he could marry Nadia. Nadia asks Omar that she loved him with all her heart, and the only reason why she agreed to the marriage was because she thought that Omar was done with her. Omar had no words left to say afterwards, after all that misery and agony that he went through because of Amjad. He even lost his best friend, Tarek, because of this. Now he has had enough. He is not going to be anyone's servant now. He consults the leader of the resistance and tells him everything. He makes the leader promise him that Omar would be the one to slay Amjad, and no one else would interfere. The leader of the resistance agrees to Omar's condition, and Omar goes straight to the phone booth. He calls Rami and asks him for a favor. He asks Rami for a gun and tells him that the man who slayed the soldier was Amjad all along. He says that he would assassinate Amjad for him and would also help him catch the new leader of the resistance. Rami and Omar meet at the same mountain where Tarek perished, only this time, the circumstances are different. Rami asks Omar about the gun, and Omar tells him that he needed that gun because he wants to attend to some personal matters. Rami asks Omar if he has ever shot a gun before, but Omar says no. Rami shoots the gun at the tree in front of them and then hands the gun over to Omar. Omar loads the gun, looks Rami dead in the eyes, and shoots Rami in the head. Perhaps Amjad would meet his fate in the next life after all.